Welcome back to Let's Talk to Animals, the podcast all species can enjoy together. My name is Shannon Cutts. I am an animal sensitive and intuitive, a Reiki master practitioner, and an animal communication teacher with animallovelanguages.com. And for our purposes here today, I am also your friendly neighborhood hostess and guide through the wild, wise, and wonderful world of interspecies communication. Call me crazy, but I truly believe that animal communication has the power to save, heal, and restore our planet for all species to enjoy and share. When we learn to communicate with one another, we begin to realize we are so much more alike than different. We care about each other. We become friends. On this podcast, we talk about what the animals have to say and share, and why our pets truly are our partners, empathic friends, and teachers. I am so glad you have joined us here for this fresh new episode of Let's Talk to Animals. So let's dive in. Hi, Shannon here. Welcome back to Let's Talk to Animals, the podcast all species can enjoy together. And today is a topic I actually never anticipated I would be covering here on the podcast, the topic of anticipatory pet reincarnation. So the big working question that we are exploring today is, when is the right time to initiate a conversation about pet reincarnation with your pet? Now, you might, as I used to do, and as many of my pet parent clients anticipate is the case, you might be assuming the only option is to wait until my pet passes, and then we can ask the question, are you open to coming back to me, to reincarnating to me in a new body for a whole new set of adventures through what I call the joyful reunion? And that is really how, especially in the early years of working with pet reincarnation cases, I was approaching pet reincarnation from this mindset. And as you've been listening to Let's Talk to Animals, you probably have absorbed the importance of opening our mindset, of not assuming anything, but simply opening ourselves and allowing the pets to lead us through this experience of shared life together and to lead us into explorations of the mysteries of life, the deeper, true nature of our connections to one another, not just body to body or even mind to mind, heart to heart, but soul to soul. I've recorded a couple of episodes about pet soul contracts, our pets' soul contracts with us, our pets' soul contracts with one another. Super fascinating. Definitely worth exploring those episodes. In fact, I'll link those up in the show notes for you here as well. But everything that I've learned thus far about animal communication, about what is possible, about the true nature of our relationships, our bonds of love, the power of love to find each other again across timelines, across incarnations, across lifetimes. All of this is information that has been gifted to me through conversations with animals. It isn't anything that I came into this work already knowing about. It is information that I've gained along the way by practicing the 3 foundations of animal communication, at least the way I teach it: noticing, wondering, getting curious. And out of that is the natural outflow of asking questions and deep listening, present moment, deep listening to learn something new. And that's what I present to you today in this episode, is something new that I am learning about pet reincarnation and how it can work with the animals we love and do not want to live our lives without. So many of you, especially if I've worked with you one-on-one in pet sessions or in my animal communication fluency program, you express this connection to one or more of the animals in your family. And I often will even hear statements like, I've loved animals all my life. I have cared for animals all my life. I have lost animals and grieved deeply all of my life. But this particular animal, I cannot be without this animal. I do not know how I am going to go on without this animal. And what the animals have taught me about this is that you're not meant to. There's a deeper lesson here. And that is your invitation to explore it. I'm not here to tell you exactly what that invitation is or exactly what it's going to look like or how it's going to unfold. That is a matter for an animal communication conversation. But I am here to share that there is more to be revealed. When you feel that way about a certain animal, it is an activation of a soul agreement on a very deep level. Chances are very good it's an intergenerational, it might be an interlifetime level. And it is a deep mutual commitment to teach, to learn, to grow together. And what I've been seeing more and more is that the pets themselves, even when we're having palliative care conversations, even when we're having last wishes conversations to help our pets create the death experience that they desire, they're already moving ahead and opening the topic of pet reincarnation. If I had been more experienced in my journey as a communicator when my own soul bird Pearl passed, I might have recognized this trend a little bit earlier, because within an hour of Pearl's passing, he blasted through, plain as day, into my inner landscape and gave me a set of clues to find him in his new body. He said, "I am rushing right back." It was unmistakable. And today, I wonder if he hadn't already been trying to get that message through to me, because I too had this very deep inner knowing that there was no possible way on this planet that I was staying here without Pearl. That used to scare my friends and family. But to me, it just felt like a matter of course. We're meant to be together. And it wasn't about me saying, well, if you go, then I will find a way to join you. It was more on a deeper level of a simple recognition that we're not meant to be apart. So this is not a suicidal ideation, although it can sound like that to the uninitiated. It is a soul recognition that this is all part of the plan. And it's always been in our soul contract together. And it is as necessary and as natural as breathing that to consider any other option feels unnatural and a lot like suffocation. So consider for yourself if you are finding yourself in this space of, I just don't know how I'm going to survive the loss of this particular animal. What the animals have been guiding me towards is there's a reason for that. And there's a conversation that is desired and desirable. And through this podcast and through my sessions and my free offerings, as well as my paid programs, I'm endeavoring to make that available to you, but more importantly, to make the awareness available to you that this is a sign. It is a thing. It is something that you need to pay attention to. It is a signal set up in advance through the agency of your mutually agreed upon soul agreement together that is intended to alert you. It's designed to alert you to the depth of your bond and to the possibilities inherent in that depth. So while the gold standard remains first shepherding our pet through their last wishes, their end of life, their death experience, going through the grief firestorm. And I have talked a lot about the grief firestorm in a couple of other episodes here. And then opening up the door for a dialogue about pet reincarnation. As a communicator, I am open to the pets changing it up on me. And lately they've been doing it. And I am completely okay with that. And they've asked me to share this episode with you in service to the message that you don't have to wait to have a pet reincarnation conversation with your pet until they have passed out of their physical body, unless you want to, and that is what feels right to you. Now, I probably need to stop, especially for those of you who are brand new to me, brand new to Let's Talk to Animals podcast. Maybe you're still new to animal communication itself, and you're new to the whole concept of pet reincarnation. The big question in this case, if this describes you, might be, well, what is a pet reincarnation conversation? What do you even mean by that? The way that the animals have guided me to work with pet reincarnation, with what we call the joyful reunion, is It is a collaborative process. When I say pet reincarnation, I don't mean sit on your couch and wait for the knock at the door, although that is a part of the process in terms of manifesting their return. This is a co-creative, collaborative process that is fueled by what I call a packet of clues and is intended to help you, pet parent, activate your intuition and begin evolving as an embodied soul. And on this level, when we have a pet reincarnation conversation, the first question that is always asked is, are you willing? Is this something that you want to do? Is this something you're willing to do? And if yes, are you open to or wanting to come back to the same human again? So we ask that question. Are you planning? Are you open to, are you willing to have a pet reincarnation experience? Now, pet reincarnation meaning I'm coming back into a new 3D physical body for a whole new set of adventures here in Earth School, which means something big that I'm here to learn and something big that I am here to teach, as well as many small lessons and teachings. That's what we're really asking. Is it in your highest and best soul good to come back here to Earth School in a new body? And if the answer is yes, and the answer is yes, and I want to come back to my same person again, well, then what we do is we gather what I call a packet of clues. And that packet of clues, usually it's 4 or 5 tidbits of information, some of which may be literal, some of which may be symbolic. We won't necessarily know which is which until after the joyful reunion actually takes place. And these tidbits are meant to guide you intuitively to find your reincarnated pet. So typically the kinds of clues that I might get might revolve around timeline. When are you coming back? Situation. How are you coming back? Gender. Are you going to be male, female? Species, breed? Are you going to be the same species and breed? Are you going to be the same species but a different breed? Are you going to be a different species? Are you coming back by yourself? Are you going to come back with a sibling or a member of your soul family? So these are the kinds of clues. I have no control over the clues that are given. All I do is ask the questions. And your pet provides the clues that they want you to have, because these are the clues that are optimally selected for your soul's awakening. They are meaningful to you. They will be meaningful to you, and they are designed as proof of life beyond physical death. So it's kind of a subset of the area of mediumship, where we're looking to inspire the living through the continuation of the soul's energy. And wrapped up inside this process is your ability as the pet parent. You've known your beloved pet already. You know them in their soul. You know their energy. You know what I call their energetic signature or their soul thumbprint. You know if it's them who's entered a room, or a different pet, or a human, or no one, even if your back is turned. So that's what we're working from, is your ability to recognize their unique energetic signature in a new physical 3D body. So that's the whole mystery of pet reincarnation, as far as I have come to understand it, sitting at the feet of the animals, the paws, the claws, the wings, and learning from them about this aspect of the animal communication field. And so when I say we can have a conversation about pet reincarnation anytime, what I mean is this is what the animals have been doing lately in sessions with me, is they've been bringing it up. And I now look back and I suspect that my pearl was trying to bring it up. And I just wasn't savvy enough to understand. I'd only been practicing as a communicator about a year professionally when he passed. And it really shut me down for about half a year. I had a lot that I needed to process, a lot that I needed to learn and unpack about that experience of him coming back to me as Miss Petal, who's running around on the floor right now. And I've continued to learn. And so no one was more surprised than I was when I started having pets wanting to talk about pet reincarnation when they were still in their senior years, well before time of passing or closer to the time of passing. And what I want to share here is that it's not always the right time for you, the pet parent, to have these conversations. And I look back now at my experience with Pearl, and I've shared our story of how he returned to me as Miss Petal through the joyful reunion of pet reincarnation. So I'll link that episode up for you here below. But looking back to where I was emotionally, mentally at the time, I see that I would not have been open to that. I was so focused on being with him and being with him and being with him and being with him. I was not interested in talking about the next iteration of us at that time point in our life together. So I am not sharing this episode from the perspective of we need to do this with your pet now before they pass. I really want you to hear me on that. I have had experiences where pets have lightly brought it up while they are still in their body. And I have noticed that not all pet parents are receptive to it, which is why if we're in a session together and your pet does bring it up, I will very gently drop a pin. I will mention it. And if I do not get a response, we will move on. It is always at your option where you are in your timeline with your pet, where you are in your focus, where you are in your emotional capacity, whether we have the conversation now or later. Just understand and hear this. If your pet decides they want to talk about it now and you don't, we don't have to. We can come back to it later after they've passed, after the grief firestorm has settled down. We can reopen that conversation. I've also noticed that there tends to be a generalized fear around initiating or engaging in a conversation about pet reincarnation when our pet is still in their physical body. And the fear typically goes something like this. There's kind of two tracks it can take. Number one is, well, will my pet think that I don't want them anymore, or that they're a burden to me if we start talking about them coming back into a new body while they're still in their current body? And track two is, if we initiate the pet reincarnation conversation now, or if my pet wants to talk about it now, does that mean they're going to go really quickly? Are they planning to die tomorrow, essentially? Or will it make them leave faster because they know they're coming back? And the answer to those two questions is no and no. Not that I've experienced it. I've even had pets go so far as to say there is no correlation between when my return ticket to the etheric or the soul or the spirit space activates when we talk about pet reincarnation. What I love about talking with animals is how often they've reiterated that coming here to Earth School is like buying a round trip ticket. And they pretty much know about how much time they're going to spend here. And they've already bought their return ticket. So having a conversation while an act of free will, for sure, doesn't have a direct line item link to changing my return ticket. So it's simply an opportunity. And often it is functional. When a pet does bring it up, I find it's often in response to extreme emotion or anxiety that their pet parent is feeling about their passing. So it's an attempt to reassure. It's an attempt to encourage, to go through the death process with courage, to inspire, to activate a deeper awareness of what's really going on here in this love bond that we share that feels unbreakable. It's because it is. And whether we have a body or we don't have a body, that's a rather mundane aspect of the bond itself and pretty easy to fix. And it's an interesting topic to explore. I also often will field questions like, well, there's so many animals that are waiting for adoption in this world. It almost feels selfish to want my specific pet back in a new body when there's all these animals in need. And that is a topic for a whole different podcast episode. And I may do one on that topic because that is an extreme example of us pulling our pet's personal power away from them and owning it for ourselves and personalizing a soul experience for someone else that isn't ours to hold. So there's a whole thing around that we can talk about another time. But for our purposes here today, so we're not here all day, I just want to anchor in that what I've learned thus far is that There's no correlation between when we talk about pet reincarnation before or after they pass out of their physical body and when they're actually leaving. And two, far from your pet perhaps misperceiving the conversation itself as an indication that you're tired of taking care of them, that you don't want them anymore, that they've become a burden to you, et cetera, et cetera. The way that they share it with me is so beautiful and simple. They give me the image of leaving for a trip. And when you leave for a trip and you're leaving your loved ones behind, what do? What do? We say, I love you. I miss you. I am so looking forward to coming back home to you. And our pets are the same way. So the desire to find out if there's a next chapter to our story, far from it being an act of pushing away the love, it's an act of acknowledging it and drawing it in closer to say, I love you so much that even if you take a trip, I will be anticipating you coming back to me. So again, there is no pressure to have a anticipatory pet reincarnation conversation. There's no timeline for when it has to happen by in order for it to happen. It's easy to forget in these kinds of more ethereal topics where we know less, there's less data, there's less research, it's less well documented that it works, how it works, when it works, all of that good stuff. It's tempting to approach it with an all or nothing mindset. Well, it's got to be this way or it can't be that way. And the truth is that we all have free will. It's a hallmark of our experience here in these 3D bodies. And while I have experienced time and again with animal communication conversations that we do have this round trip ticket, there's a timeline for when we're going to arrive here in our school, there's a timeline for when we're going to leave, and all of that can be a little bit of a moving target depending on how the life itself is going and the lessons that we're learning. But it's within a general time period, but all the rest of it, we're here on a choose your own adventure experience. And while I have come to perceive that our big life lessons and opportunities are pretty well mapped out before we get here, we actually spend quite a bit of time and energy and heart pouring into curating our experiences here because it's not a small investment. All the rest of it and the pathways through which we actually get there and the timeline for what happens when and next, all of that is very fluid. And we humans, each one of us processes grief differently. And this also has to do with how our pets pass and the nature of the timeline for their passing. So some of our pets, they pass very quickly. Some of our pets, it's a much longer process. Sometimes it's something where we know it. We're in a palliative or a hospice setting and we see what's coming and we understand what timeline, what era of life we're in together. Sometimes we really don't. And add all of that up along with other older unprocessed grief and the grief systems or lack thereof that have been in place for our embodied timeline thus far, how we grieve, what is permissible, what is not, all that stuff. That's all wrapped into our own personal grief firestorm process. And the grief firestorm, of course, is, and I've talked about that elsewhere on other episodes, is our neurochemical biological reaction to grief and also the soul level house cleaning that happens when we have a grief incident in our life, and also a reflection of the deep bonds that we have with our pets in particular, because there's this unconditional love that opens us up much more deeply to feel than with many of our human relationships. So the grief firestorm is a very unique time for each of us, even if your pet knows how you're going to proceed through it. And maybe they're just testing the waters to see if this is a conversation that you would be open to having. I've never had a pet push. There's no reason to have a conversation that you're not ready to have emotionally, because that could do more harm than good. So at that level, consider this more of an informational podcast episode. Know that the possibility exists. Know that the opportunity is there. Know that if you're curious and your pet is still in their body, and even if you've had the thought yourself, I wonder if, then I just want you to know that asking the question is not off the table. It doesn't have the kind of emotional impact on your pet, at least from what I've seen thus far, that we humans typically assume it will have. In fact, it often has the opposite impact, where it's like hearing somebody really likes you. They like you so much, they want you around for even longer. And it's very nourishing and it's reassuring to our pets, because so often when I connect with pets in spirit, their biggest worry and kind of the number one thing that holds them back from embracing the healing and the replenishing that the spirit or the light dimension has to offer them is their worry about us. They're so worried about us. They're worried about our grief. They're worried about the pain that them having to leave their body earlier than us has caused us. They're still hanging around us. So having an anticipatory pet reincarnation conversation when it's mutually desired by both of you can be very calming and very healing and very connecting, kind of giving a bigger picture perspective of what's really happening here. Yes, I'm shepherding you through your last wishes process, through your death experience. I am being your champion, your advocate, co-creator of the death experience that you want to have. Yes, you need to pass out of your body because of it not working well, or it's not being a safe and comfortable home, whatever it is. But having that panoramic picture of most likely been together before. And even if this is the first time that we've both been in bodies at the same time together, we're going to do it again. And it can also be an activating force to move us through the grief firestorm when it happens inevitably. We can't avoid that part and the uniqueness of our grief process and the need to go through that so that our nervous system shuts off and goes back into parasympathetic, and we can meet ourselves again as the new being that we are post grief and continue forward into the next chapter of our life. And to have a sense that we're not going into that next chapter alone, but that our pet is waiting up ahead to meet us there and continue. I can just speak for me personally and the many pet parents that I have supported through this process. There's no comfort like it to know that the one that I love is coming back to me, because they love me too. And they love me so much that they're willing to come back into a new body with the incredible amount of maneuvering and planning and strategizing and co-creating at the soul level that takes. Really understanding that what's happening when our pet says yes to pet reincarnation is we initiate a new soul agreement together. And it's a soul agreement that we have to negotiate in a very unique way, while one of us is in a physical body and one of us is typically not. And that can be challenging. Sometimes it's a little bit easier to renegotiate our new soul agreement together, a new set of adventures together, if you will, when we're both still in our physical bodies. So that can be another more functional aspect of it as well. And even planning for it and setting up that process. I have a whole process that I use with my pet parent clients where we begin the energetic alignment required to make it easier for the two of you to find one another again. And when we start setting that process up in advance, it can reduce some of the emotional friction and the white noise or the interference, if you will, that can get in the way and make it harder to find one another again. So that's what I've got for you today. What questions do you have about anticipatory pet reincarnation conversations? Are you living with a soul pet and you can really resonate with this feeling like, I cannot live without this pet and I don't know what I'm going to do, because I'm looking down the timeline and I'm realizing their species doesn't live as long as we do. And how am I going to navigate that? I'm curious. Have you ever asked that question? Will my pet come back to me? Is that even a thing? Is that even possible? Would that be possible for me? It's so easy to depersonalize it. Would that be possible for other people, for special people, for intuitive people, for psychic people? I'm here to tell you it is possible for anyone if both souls are willing there is a way. So if you're in that process and you're feeling stuck or you're struggling, reach out to me. We can have a pet session. We can talk with your pet. We can clear up the confusion and we can get you on the path of manifesting your own joyful reunion. I'm also going to link up in the show notes here my free guide, The Joyful Reunion of Pet Reincarnation for Pet Parents. So you can access and download that free tool and start working with it to better support you and your pet to have your own joyful reunions experience. And if you've enjoyed today's episode, I would love to hear from you. Please do follow the show so you'll be notified about new episodes, and drop me a note or leave a review. Let me know your questions. Let me know what you enjoyed about this episode. It's nourishing to my soul and supportive to creating the content that I share with you here, to know what you're interested in, what you're wrestling with, the questions that you have, and how we can explore them more deeply together. So thank you so much for your listening ears and your time today. It's always a joy to connect with you in this way. I endeavor to drop a new episode every couple of weeks. So be sure to stay tuned. Visit our archive for more intriguing topics in the greater animal communication field. And just know that I send you and your pet family all my love. Bye for now. I have so enjoyed sharing this episode with you. If you're new to the Let's Talk to Animals community and you've enjoyed this episode, please do leave us a review on your favorite streaming service or drop a comment wherever you like to listen. I love to hear from you, and your feedback truly helps me shape future episodes based on your interests and needs. If you're not already in my weekly Love Letters community, head over to animallovelanguages.com to opt in. Your welcome email will include $25 off your first pet session with me, and you'll be the first to know when a new podcast episode drops. If you're interested in learning more about the work I do communicating with animals, offering pet Reiki, and teaching animal communication, please visit me at animallovelanguages.com. Click on Schedule for Pet Sessions and Programs for all the information about my new Animal Communication Adventure to Mastery student program and the live animal communication practice circle I run for student practitioners. And I look forward to welcoming you back here very soon for a fresh new episode of Let's Talk to Animals. Okay, all my love. Bye for now.